Everyone, and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda, and in today's video we're going to be doing a set of flamingo nails, as these were inspired by one of the new water decal designs that was released. If you did miss the water decal video, then I will leave that linked at the bottom of the description box below, so do check that out. Jumping into today's video, I am working on a practice hand, and I have already buffed the surface of the tips I have in my practice hand just to remove the shine. So I'm just going to go over them with the Kiki London dust brush just to make sure I've really removed all of the dust from those nail tips and from the practice hand. Now, if you are working on yourself or a client and you're working on real nails, you will need to do a full prep routine first of all. Again, I do have a prep video, so I will leave that linked at the bottom of the description box below as well. Then I'm just going to take an alcohol pad and wipe over the nails just to make sure that they are clean before we come in with our base coat. And for today's base coat, I'm going to be using number 6 from the rubber coloured base collection. I really love this colour. It's a really nice soft pink, and it gives you a really lovely base to work on top of. So when it comes to the rubber bases, no matter whether you are using the clear or one of the coloured ones, they are a little bit thicker than a regular base coat, but they do provide you with an extra layer of strength compared to the regular base coat. So they are brilliant for anyone with weak or brittle nails, or if you have any clients that suffer with chipping. Now, when I work with the rubber coloured bases, I like to really scrub it in to that natural nail play and then kind of just float my brush over the top to get a nice smooth surface. So you'll see here, I take my brush, I'm really scrubbing it in as we go up towards that cuticle area, getting a nice neat cuticle line, and then I'm fanning that brush out and around and then just floating it down the nail to get a nice smooth application. Once I have finished applying that base coat to all of the nails, I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. Now, they take a 30-second cure in an LED lamp. I am using the Kiki London Deluxe 96 watt LED lamp, which is pictured here. And I do recommend that if you are using the Kiki London products, you use a Kiki London lamp. So moving on to our gel polish, I'm going to take vintage white and I'm going to apply this to the pointer and the middle finger. So I want to get all of my bases done in this set. I'm kind of working as if I was working on myself or a client. So I'm going to take the vintage white and I'm just painting on a thin first coat on, like I said, the pointer and the middle finger. I'm going to use a different color on the little finger, and on the ring finger we're doing a ombre. So when I apply my gel polish color, I like to keep my layers nice and thin. I did feel as though I could have got away with one coat on this particular color, but I did decide to come in with 2 just to get a nice even base. But it is very highly pigmented, and where we are working over a coloured base, that gives us a bit of pigmentation as well. With your gel polish colours, you want to make sure you're getting a nice neat application. Try to avoid getting any on the cuticles or the skin, but if you do, you can always clean up with a little bit of alcohol before curing. So before moving on to curing, I'm going to do the little finger. So I'm taking Ballet Charm on this nail, which is a really nice soft pinky nude. I want to do a French tip on this nail, so I did want to make sure I had a nude base down, and I was kind of trying to keep with a lot of soft pink colours for this set. Then once I have done the first coat of those 2 colours on those 3 nails, I'm going to pop that into cure for 30 seconds, and then we're going to move in to the second coat. Again, I'm keeping my second coat of colour quite thin, applying it pretty much exactly the same. I kind of like to just gently float my colour on without applying too much pressure. The only time I'm really applying any pressure to my brush is when I'm nudging up towards that cuticle area and allowing my brush to fan out around the sidewalls of the nail. The only other difference that I do on my second coat of colour is I very slightly cap the free edge of the nail with that colour. So you'll see I apply my colour on the little finger. You've got very minimal work to do, but I'll just ever so gently go around the sides of that tip of the nail there just to cap that colour, because it helps you avoid any chipping. And then we're going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. So that's our base colours done there. And as I said, on the ring finger, we're going to be doing a ombre. So I'm going to be doing an ombre between vintage white and flamingo pink. I opted to use flamingo pink simply because it's called Flamingo, and we're going for a flamingo set of nails, but it is an absolutely gorgeous colour. And of course, to do the ombre, I'm going to be using the Kiki London ombre brush. Now, to start off with, I'm taking that vintage white and I'm getting a nice neat cuticle area, and I brought the vintage white roughly 3/4 of the way down the nail, but this ended up being a little bit too much. Bringing it halfway down the nail would have been enough, but I was worried that the pink was going to overtake the white, so I wanted a little bit more white down. But it turned out these two colours are blended together really easily. So as I am applying that pink, I'm pushing it up into the white so there's no gap between the two colours, and then taking my ombre brush, I'm going to start blending where those two colours meet. So I'm taking my brush, taking it backwards and forwards. It looks as though I'm working a lot faster as I have sped the video up a little bit, but as you can see, the colour just blended effortlessly. But I'm then moving on and taking a little bit of the vintage white into that transitional colour we've created in the centre, cleaning off my brush, and then doing exactly the same with the flamingo pink, taking that into the transitional shade that we've created in the centre. And as I said, because these are blended so effortlessly, when it comes to doing that second coat on my ombre, I don't take the white down as much as what I did on this one. I only took it that little bit further down this time round, as I did feel as though the pink would overtake the white, but it didn't. It just blended really softly and really nicely. I was really pleased with how this ombre looked. So I do always allow my ombres to sit for a couple of seconds just to minimize those brush strokes before curing, and then I've popped that in for a 30-second cure, and we're just going to repeat those steps, always getting a nice neat cuticle line first of all with my gel polish, and then bringing the color down. And then I'm going to come in with that gorgeous flamingo pink. Like I said, I always like to make sure the two colors hit each other so there's no gap between. So if you are doing this as well, just make sure that you've not picked up any of the previous colour on your bottle brush before you pop that back in the bottle, because you don't want to contaminate your gel polish colour. And then again, taking that ombre brush, I'm doing exactly the same as before, just going across the nail, blending out the harsh line where the two colours meet, and then I'll take the vintage white into the centre and then the flamingo pink into the centre. And then I kind of just have an overall look of the nail and blend in any areas where I think they need a little bit more blending. For me, it's usually the sides of the nail. I find that I end up blending out the center but forgetting to do the sides, so I always like to take a few seconds just to make sure those sides have blended in nicely as well. And then again, I'm just going to leave that to sit for a few seconds to minimize those brush strokes, and then pop it into cure. And how cute does that ombre look? I think it looked really cute as well because it was on a short set of nails. Now moving on to our water decals. So these are what inspired me to do a flamingo set of nails. This is the Exotic Birds water decal sheet, which very recently launched from Kiki London. They launched 7 new water decal sheets, I believe, and I did do a video showing you guys them, and I did a couple of designs using each of the sheets, but I didn't use this sheet because I wanted to save them to do a flamingo set of nails, because I absolutely love flamingos and I thought it was a really fun design to do. I have kept the design quite beginner salon friendly as well, because I know a lot of the time if you are using water decals, it's because they are quick and easy to use in a salon, and they are very beginner friendly nail art as well. So now when it comes to my water decals, I like to cut them out as close to the image as possible. So sometimes this might take you a little bit longer, but in all honesty, it's worth taking that little bit longer to cut that image out. The closer you get it to the image and the more of that excess backing paper around the edge that you remove, it just gives you a lot more seamless application. Then I'm applying these using the jelly stamper method. So I've placed down my water decal onto that stamper, dampened the back of it with my angled nail art brush and some room temperature water, taken away the backing paper, and then you're able to literally stamp down your water decal. And this way they apply with minimal bubbles and creases. I do still like to come over the surface of them with the Kiki London Silicone Tool just to make sure it has adhered really nicely to the nail. But I find using the stamper method is definitely the easiest way to apply your water decals. So I'm just going over this, making sure there's no creases and it has adhered nicely. And then off camera, I did cut out 2 of these leaf designs, like tropical leaves, from that same water decal sheet, and I'm going to be applying these on the ring finger. I didn't want to put too many water decals on one nail, so I kind of left the flamingo on its own on that nail, as I wanted it to kind of be center stage, but I did really want to include some of these tropical leaves. So I'm going to pop these over the ombre, and I really liked how they looked as well, where you've got that ombre base and then your nail art on top. If you've watched the channel, you know that I absolutely love layering nail art techniques, so I love that rather than popping these over a plain base, we've got them over that ombre. Now the water decals do pop best over a white base, but I do find that they are quite pigmented, so they do work over certain colors as well. Just keep your colors on the lighter shade, if that makes sense. Like you'll see here, the water decal goes nicely over that pink base, even though the pink is quite bright. Again, I'm just making sure to smooth out any creases with my silicone tool, and then this decal just come off the nail a little bit, so I'm just filing off some of that excess. You can either file it off, or sorry, I buffed it off here, or you can take a little bit of acetone and melt away that excess. But whatever technique you do want to make sure you remove that excess, because otherwise it will be sticking out, and then when you top coat it in, you'll find that it'd be very easy to pick off and cause the water decal to lift, which will remove your top coat, or it will cause your design to chip. So always make sure that you've got nothing hanging over the edge of the nail. And then on to the pointer finger, I've taken my Kiki London palette, I've popped down that gorgeous Flamingo Pink, and then I'm also taking the gorgeous Glisten Up. I wanted to do some kind of like a stripy design on this now, but I wanted to make sure I included a couple of different colours. So I'm starting off with the Flamingo Pink and the Glisten Up, and then I do also add a little bit of rose gold glitter as well. Now for this design, I am going to use my stripe liner brush, and I wanted to keep it all quite simple and salon friendly. So we're going to start off by loading up a stripe liner brush with a generous amount of gel polish, and then I just kind of take off some of the excess. I like to run my brush through that gel polish to make sure the bristles are coated in a nice amount of gel polish, and then I kind of just brush a little bit of the excess off, and then I'm just doing a sweeped line across the nail. I didn't want to do kind of block straight lines because I wanted it to just all look quite nice and soft. I prefer that look to quite sharp, crisp lines, and they are a lot easier to do as well. Now when I am doing lines like this, I do use the 10-second flash cure on my Kiki London lamp a lot, but you won't see that all the time in the video. So here I would have done this first line and then popped it in for that 10-second flash cure. If you already have that particular, the deluxe Kiki London lamp, you'll be already familiar with that 10-second flash cure function. But if you don't, if you have one of the previous Kiki London lamps, or you have a lamp that doesn't have that, you can still use the 30-second function, but maybe just count to 10. It just basically freezes your gel polish in place without fully curing it, but it means you're not going to smudge it when it comes to painting on your next line. So I have done the Flamingo Pink, and then I've just followed the curve of that with the Glisten Up, and then I'm going to do the same again more towards the top of the nail. I wanted to keep a section in the middle of the nail empty so I could come in with a line of that rose gold that we're going to come in with in a little while. But this is really simple to do. As you can see, I'm holding the finger at an angle so that I'm able to move the finger as well as moving my brush, just to get a nice good sweep with that brush, and it makes it a lot easier as well. Sometimes you can find that you might just hold the finger dead still and focus on moving the brush, but sometimes it's a little bit easier to move the finger as well as the brush, if that makes sense. Now Glisten Up is quite a subtle shimmer, especially over the vintage white base. So what I did decide to do was do one coat of these and then come in with a second coat just to make them really pop. But doing a second coat is really simple, so it's worth doing as it's quick and easy, but it just makes that glitter pop a little bit more. Glisten Up has an absolutely beautiful sparkle, but it is a little bit tricky to pick up on camera. But as you can see, the stripe liner brush makes the lines like this really effortless. So I decided to pop them in for a 30-second cure, and then I'm just going to come over the top and do exactly the same again, like I said, just to make them pop. Now, one thing to bear in mind when you are doing a second coat over these kind of lines is to make sure that you keep directly on top of that line that you've done underneath. If you come over the edge, it can kind of create a bit of a shadow in effect and not look as sharp. So if you do come over the edge, just take your angled nail art brush and a little bit of alcohol and clean that up. Here, I'm just going to come straight in and go over the top again with the Glisten Up. I haven't done any flash curing on the second coat, as it was a lot easier to do than the first coat. The second coat is usually 10 times easier to do than the first coat. So I'm just loading up my brush and just coming over that Glisten Up. And like I said, it's a little hard to tell at this point in the video, but it does make the world of difference, just making it pop that little bit more. And then I wanted to add a little bit of rose gold. So I very recently added this to my collection. I didn't have this previously and it is absolutely gorgeous. So these are the platinum range of Kiki London glitter gel polishes. Like I said, this one is called rose gold and they are all jam packed with sparkles. And one of the things that I've loved about this one is it's great for a full coverage nail. You know, you want full on sparkle. This is definitely one of the glitters to go for. But these are really pretty for adding subtle glitter lines as well. So like I'm coming in here, loading up my brush, I did find it easier to work with small amounts at a time and then just applying it exactly the same as I have done the previous gel polishes, and it just really pops. Like, look at that glitter, it's really pretty. Anyway, moving on to the little finger, which is the final nail in our design, I'm going to take my Kiki London French brush and I'm going to take that Flamingo Pink that I've got down on my palette, and we're going to do a simple French nail on this design. So I'm loading up both sides of my French brush and then I'm simply going to place it down and pull down. The French brush makes French designs really easily. Then once you've done one side, you flip your brush over and do the other side. One of the things I have noticed about this brush is it's a lot easier with more gel polish on your brush. A lot of the time when working with nail art brushes, I tend to put less polish on my brush, but with the French brush it works a lot better if you have the same amount of product on your brush as though you would when using the bottle brush, if that makes sense. So as you can see, I like to load it up and then you've just got to angle it where you want your French to go basically and pull down. As you can see here, the second coat is really easy to do as well. I like to go over it a few times just to make sure I've got a nice even amount of gel polish down, and then if you need to fill in the tip a little bit you can do so like I did here. And then I'm going to pop that in for a final 30-second cure, and this is what the finished result looked like. I thought these looked super cute. They're definitely very girly and they probably only be wearable for a certain people, but I thought they were super cute and all of the techniques are very beginner friendly and very salon friendly if you are pressed for time as well. So I'm now going to come in and top coat. I opted to use the no wipe rubber top coat for two reasons. One, because we're sealing in nail art, and anytime I'm sealing in any kind of nail art, whether it be water decals or foils, I like to seal them in with the rubber top coat because they provide you that extra layer of strength. It's a little bit thicker than your no wipe top coat. And another reason is because when I've done anything like the painted lines or the French, the nail can sometimes look a little bit uneven and the rubber top coat smooths all of that out. So I'm going to apply a thin layer of this to all of the nails, and then the rubber top coat does require a 60-second cure. So I'll pop that in to cure for 60 seconds. And then that is the end of the design. Again, if you was doing this on yourself or a client, you would allow your top coat to cool, and then that is when you would come in with your cuticle oil. But as my practice hand doesn't require any cuticle oil, I've just left you a clip of the finished result. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then please do give it a thumbs up and leave us a comment below. Do check out the recommended videos at the bottom of the description box, and as always, all the products will be linked in the description box below as well. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.